This video will cover the interface that appears when you edit an existing worksheet. First, we'll go over the various interface items and their functions. At the top left, you'll see an indicator that lists the name of the cell you currently have selected. If you have multiple cells selected, it will display the name of the first cell in that selection. Next, an X and a check mark are the Cancel and Accept entry buttons. These buttons control whether to cancel or accept changes you have just made to a particular cell. Just below these buttons, you'll see a small arrow button. This is called the Worksheet Menu. In this menu are a number of functions. Eventually, we'll cover them all in detail, but for now, just a few of the major items. Recalculate. This will force all worksheets, open or closed, to recalculate their values. If you see any values that seem to have not updated as expected, perform a recalculation. Database headers. This option will enable or disable the display of database header rows, whose function we will detail later on. Preferences. This dialog allows you to set both a header and a footer. These will appear if you print the worksheet directly. Margins will also only be applied to printed worksheets. Show tabs will cause the row and column names to be displayed at all times on the worksheet itself. Auto recalc will force a recalculation operation after any cell is edited. Note that while this can keep everything consistently up to date, in complex documents with many worksheets, it can slow editing down considerably. Print. This is where you would print a specific worksheet. A worksheet that's been placed on a layer will of course print with that layer during regular printing, but this option allows you to print only the worksheet by itself. The formula bar will display the actual formula used in a particular cell, rather than displaying the result of that formula, as is displayed in the cell itself. Here we have worksheet columns, and along this side we have worksheet rows. As with other applications, such as Excel or numbers, each cell is denoted by its letter and number combination. So the very first cell would be A1, which this cell further to the right and down would be C9. Columns will always behave the same, however there are a number of different types of rows. Rows with a whole number and no marker icon are simply spreadsheet rows. The rows marked with a diamond icon are known as database headers. These rows are normally hidden for printing, but are used to control and sort the rows within them. So in this example, row 2 is the database header row, and rows that begin with the number 2, such as 2.1 and 2.2, are members of that database, known as database subrows. This particular worksheet is listing the windows currently residing in this document. To apply a border, format, or color attribute to a particular cell, you would first select that cell and right-click Format Cells, or click on the Worksheet Menu button and choose Format Cells. You can format multiple cells at once by selecting them before activating the Format Cells command. Number. This tab controls how numeric value displayed in each cell is formatted. There are a number of different ways this can be done, and they'll be covered briefly here. General. This is the default formatting for cells. It will display data within cells exactly as it was entered, and with no special conditioning or unit conversion. You'll also notice that there is a field for leader and trailer. These are essentially prefixes and suffixes that will either precede or follow the data within each cell, respectively. Decimal. These will apply to numeric values within the cell. It allows you to control how many decimal places will be included, as well as if you wish to use commas or not. Scientific. This will format cells with extremely large or long values using the scientific E notation. Fractional allows the display of fractions. If you do not use this mode, and enter the fraction 1/3 for instance, Vectorworks will assume you wish it to calculate the result of 1 divided by 3, and will leave you with 0.333 repeating instead. Enabling this will allow the fraction to display as entered. Dimension, dimension area, and dimension volume are fairly self-explanatory. They'll format themselves for linear distance, area, or a volume, respectively. The units they employ are specified in the Units dialog box for the currently active document. Angles gives you direct control over the manner and accuracy in which an angle value is displayed. The default choices are degrees, minutes and seconds, as well as decimal values, but these are also controllable in the Units dialog box. Date will simply reformat entered data into a specified type. A number of standard date formats are available to choose from. Boolean will display a specified value within the cell, based upon what values you set here. For instance, we can set a value of yes for true and no for false, so that any cells that contained a number greater than 0 will report yes, while values of 0 would display no instead. Text, finally, is used when a non-numerical value is entered, such as the name or description of an object. Alignment controls how the value displayed in the cell is aligned in relation to the boundaries of the cell itself. As you may expect, H, or horizontal alignment, controls the horizontal position within the cell. V, or vertical alignment, controls the vertical position within the cell. Text orientation will alter how the text within the cell is rotated. Horizontal is the default for text. Switching it to vertical will rotate the text 90 degrees counterclockwise. Font, which requires little to no explanation, allows for the font and font appearance to be specified for a particular cell. Border requires a bit more clarification. This display will function differently depending on how many cells you have selected. Style will allow you to pick either a predefined line thickness or a line style from the current document. With a single cell selected, the only two presets will be None, which draws no borders, and Outline, which draws all borders. With multiple cells selected, you'll have a preset option of Inside, which will draw lines between cells, but not along their exterior. With multiple cells selected, Outside becomes the outside of all the selected cells, instead of outlining each of them individually. Below, there are more granular controls for each of the different borders. Clicking will simply toggle the state of that border. If you wish to change the style of a border that has already been added, set that style above, as well as the color. Then, click the desired border button, or preset once again, twice for the individual options, to set the new style. Patterns is where you would add a solid color fill to the cell, or a specified pattern fill and its color settings. The fill of a worksheet can be controlled by the attribute palette as well, but these values will override that. Images. There are two types of visuals that can be displayed in worksheet cells: thumbnails and 2D attributes. Thumbnails will display the actual top plan appearance of the plugin object, such as a door or window, as well as for hybrid 2D, 3D symbols. 2D attributes will place a rectangle in the cell with the attributes applied to the selected object. For styled walls, slabs, or spaces, a top plan cross-section will be displayed instead. Size. This allows for the control of the image itself. Auto size will stretch or contract the image to fit within the boundaries of the cell. Fixed allows the user to enter a specified height and width in points, millimeters, or inches. Layer scale and custom scale allow users to resize the image based on a specified scale directly. View. Standard views lets you select which of the standard views the object will be displayed in, if applicable. Rotation will be available if the view is set to top plan, allowing you to rotate the 2D image. Render mode lets you select between wireframe, OpenGL, and hidden line. Margin gives you control over the extra space around the image. You can select both the size and what units the margin will be controlled by here. Finally, one of the last user interface items that require explanation for worksheets are the sort and sum commands. These commands, which are only available when a database row is selected, will summarize or sort the items in the column they're applied to. To apply one of these commands to a column, simply click the database header row, then click and drag the desired command onto the letter of the column you wish to apply it to. Sum will combine all the rows that list the same value for this particular column. The small bars icons are ascending and descending sort. They will reorder the rows as needed for the column the command is applied to. Ascending will start from 0 and go to 9, or A to Z. Descending will sort Z to A, 9 to 0. More than one of these commands can be added to a single row. The priority of which sort or sum is performed in will be based upon the order it was applied. The first one to be applied will take priority over the others. To remove the sort or sum, simply click and drag it off the column directly. This video is just one in a number of videos designed to explain the creation and use of worksheets. Make sure to review all of these to increase your understanding of worksheets in Vectorworks.